Speaking of watch bounce backs, I heard that one of the commentators over the week, I'll probably get this slightly wrong, apparently the Raiders have won their last 9 games the week after being held to 0.
Yep. Yeah.
The watch bounce back specialists.
They are the specialists.
Yeah.
They are the specialists. Maybe, the round was brought to you by Mosh Bounce Back.
Yeah.
So Random Stats Guy, he put up a post of all the bounce back games they've had. Random Stats Guy, one of the all-time big lifts in rugby league.
He's part of the SC Playbook family now.
Joined the team this year.
Really? Joined the team?
Yeah,
Okay.
doing a bit of everything for us. Pottying, writing, doing everything.
Oh, I like that.
He's a weapon.
Okay. So the SC empire is building.
Yeah, we're growing, mate. He'd be a near lock in the content creators Bloke team of the year as well.
No, he
might skipper.
Yeah,
he is the most underappreciated content creator in the game because every big podcast sources him. You know what I'm saying?
He's unreal.
Like, whereas all other podcasts don't usually source each other because, like, they just don't. Whereas I think on mainstream, he's getting brought up on, Random Stats Guy on the...
Yeah.
It's great stuff. And NRL Physio. Him and NRL Physio are probably the most underappreciated content creators in that game.
If you're putting a team together as well, actually a very handy player on the field, man of the match in the charity game at the start of the year.
Can move.
He
plays first grade. Granted, it is rugby union, so it doesn't really count, but first grade union in Sydney is a gun.
His hips do not lie.
They don't lie.
He also featured in the 2013 North Sydney Bears Harold Matthews team. Left wing.
Oh, really? Fucking hell.
Could he have been anything?
Could he have been
He could have been anything.
Oh, wow. And he decided to be a stats guy.
Yeah.
You know what else don't lie? Stats. That should be a slogan. My hips don't lie, and you know what else don't? Stats.
I like it.
All right, let's get into it, shall we? The Mighty Raiders. This is a game of genuine polar opposites when it comes to analysing it. What an incredible performance by the Raiders, and what a really poor performance by Manly. Unfortunately for Manly, this loss, just like the Broncos loss, has been coming for a while now. We speak about it ad nauseum. You don't sort your defence out. Things like this happen. 20-0 up at one stage, 20-0 up at home with the squad they've got, playing the way they were playing, and then they end up losing to a Raiders side who, I hate to stick the boot into the Rabbitohs, but the Raiders, they've lost their key half. They've got 2 guys in there that are barely halves themselves, 18 and 19 years old, young as anything. They've got a fullback that's not a fullback. They got, they are struggling right now. And basically, as soon as Fogarty goes down, everyone just goes, season over. And the Raiders just go, look, when I'm listening to Ricky's talk, especially after last week's game, he didn't admit defeat, but he was like, we got some young guys in this side, we've got a plan, and we're sticking to it. And so that's not necessarily admitting defeat, but it is saying, look, I understand we're not in a position to be playing anywhere near what we're going to play. But the Raiders go, that does not mean that we can't fight every game. And so they come out this week, and what an incredible win, riding them all the way home. It was amazing to see it happen all in real time, and just see it happen in a way where you're going, where are they going to get their points? They got 2 teenagers in the halves who are at the very least at sixes, as I said, arguably other positions, and you go, where are they going to get their points? And they get their points just from pure effort, literally just from pure effort. Incredible performance by the Raiders. Timmy?
Yeah, where are they going to get their points from? It's veteran back rower, his first full game back of the season, Elliot Whitehead taking an intercept, flicking behind his back in wet conditions to score a try. And that's the kind of weird shit the Raiders do. They just hang in games more often than not. They had in the last couple of weeks, and they just find ways. Even in this, there was tries off intercepts, a lot of tries off kicks. There was nothing methodical, nothing mechanic about the way they scored their tries with sweeping backline movements. That's not what the Raiders are. They just find a way to score them. Weird game of football. After 2 poor weeks, to be down 20-0 after about 25 minutes, you're just going, oh, dear Lord, this is going to get ugly.
Yeah.
And they just find a way to hang in games and completed at 85%. That's what we touched on for a while. With Fogarty out and a lack of probably spark in the backline, they've just got to complete high, play high percentage footy, and just find offloads, find tries off kicks, and they can grind away and win games. So to come back and show the fight that they did in this one, it was so good to watch as a supporter, but weird game of football.
Yeah, very weird game of footy. But, I know all the, the kicks and, kind of random ways they scored, but you've got to make the effort to put yourself in the position to score those tries. You know, like a lot of other teams wouldn't have had the grit or the fight to go, all right, we're parked down in Manly's end. We can't find a try for us to save our lives. But our effort has just put us in the position that the bounce of the ball might go our way. And it went their way. Like, they earned the right for that to happen.
And they were down 20-0 in a game in the wet, in terrible conditions. And you just look at it and you go, they've got one of the best long kicking aids, veteran half, Daly Cherry Evans against him. It's like, he'll kick their way home from this. They're not going to give up this lead. Like, how do they do it? Look at two Raiders halves who, in my opinion, are playing out of position, kicking games, definitely not their strength. They just found a way.
You know, I'm guilty of it as well, as Tim just said. Oh, weird shit happens. It's been happening for 5 years. This is who they are. Even when they made the grand final, like, you'd sit there and you watch a game and you go, okay, Jack Whiten's put 3 out on the full. They've kicked it into shins 80% of the time, and they've managed to soccer their way to 3 tries. Like, they've been doing this for years.
Yeah, so you've got to put yourself in the position for that to happen.
You make your own luck.
The best example of that is Hudson Young, one of our most durable players the last few years and probably our best player for a few years on the trot now, comes up with the match winner. He does this time and time
he's
and
done
time
it
again.
So many times.
Because he keeps putting himself in the position to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I want to give Ko Weeks a rap, you know. Would have been pretty hard being brought down to the club, essentially tacitly given the, you're going to be our 6 with Fogarty, gets beaten by a teenager to that jersey. I mean, I know he's also young. And so it could have been very easy for him to sook, put his head down, like, this is what I came here for. Now I'm playing bloody New South Wales Cup. If I'm going to play New South Wales Cup, I may as well be back up in, where I live. Mm-hmm. He came in, and was it pretty? Was it, Joey Johns at his best, just tearing teams apart? But he had a red hot crack. He did the best with the tools that he has, and it was bloody good. It was bloody good. He just got it done somehow, some way. He didn't try and play like someone that he's not. He just went, you know what? This is the kind of player I am. I'm going to put that best foot forward, and he nailed it.
You can't knock him.
Yeah,
for sure. Yeah. Once again, is he the perfect 7? No, not even close to it. But this is how Ricky builds his footy. Jack was never the perfect 5'8" either. But they build around what. I think that's what I've always loved about Ricky, is that he coaches the team he has, not the team he wants.
Mate, he had nearly double the kicking meters DCE had.
What?
Like, most bizarre thing ever.
And you sit there and go, like, Ko Weeks, terrified him, having him in the halves moving forward long term, because even though he had some good moments in that, he just looked to me like an out and out fullback, not a halves player.
Yeah.
But, I think he was signed as a 5'8", but I definitely think he's playing out of position. And you said, Kemp, he did the best with the tools and the arsenal that he has. And at the end of the day, all you can ask for is effort from these players. And he came in and he gave it a red-hot crack the entire game. The try set up for, I think it was Nick Kochick with that kick on second tackle, and you're like, if that went wrong at a key stage of the game, could have been crucified, but he went for it, he backed it, came off, and it ended up, getting us home essentially, or get us back into the fight. So, don't love the halves long term, but you can't question the effort.
Well, so DC had 9 kicks, he had 15. So DC 9 kicks for 296 metres, and he had 15 kicks for 426 metres. So, like, I understand, sometimes the game doesn't work out, so that you actually get a lot of kicks or long kicks or whatever. But at the same time, I don't think any of us would have been sitting here going, he's going to have more kicks in DCE and he's going to kick more metres. No one would have predicted that before a game, especially in wet weather footy. And maybe it turned out that way because, DC didn't need to kick because they just kept scoring for that first half. But at the same time, like, they both played 80 minutes. And I'm not sitting here, like, not pretending like he's a better kicker. That's what I'm making as a point, is that no one would have predicted that going forward. But he just went in there and said, look, I'm just going to have a crack. I'm going to have a dig. And that's what the Raiders players do. Like, okay, they fall off here and there, and last week that wasn't that great. But very rarely do they go like a month of footy where you'd go, you know what, the Raiders' identity is no longer there. I thought, he was great. I thought, we spoke about him earlier, but Chris, isn't he just like you kind of like, you watch a game and doesn't necessarily do anything incredible, and you're sitting there, like, you watch Tomoko and you go, holy heck, this kid is a beast. Well, you watch Chris and you go, yeah, okay, and then you look down and you go, mate, the bloke's ran for 200 metres, and you go, where did that come from? And I feel like he does that most games, where a lot of his stuff is like accumulative. It's like a lot of real, like, Tomoko can have plays where it's just like, that's a game-breaking play. Whereas I think with Chris, he'll have like 3 or 4, 8 out of 10 plays that not necessarily game breaking, but when you add them all together, they've shifted momentum to a degree.
Yeah, and he's a good. You can probably tell the story better to me, but I'm pretty sure during COVID, he went home to New Zealand. They pretty much had to convince him to come back, didn't they? He sort of want to give the game away.
Yeah, he was contracted, and they basically just gave me like a leave of absence for a year to go and get whatever was going on with him. I don't know personally, but sorted. He just wasn't, I don't think, in the right space to be playing at NRL level. And credit to the Raiders, they said, mate, go and get whatever's needed done. Comes back a year later, and you're going to see how what it takes in the NRL, and he's just exceeded. He's been Mr. Fix-It for us the last 2 years.
Sticky would love him because they just put him wherever they need someone, and he always does a great job. Like not too many times where you're like, geez, he was quiet or had a bad game. He just does whatever he's needed to.
And every time they have injuries or whatnot, I always hear these whispers of, Sepp Chris could play 5'8". I'd love to see it.
Just see what happens.
Just see what happens.
Even when he was getting moved to fullback, I was like, no, I don't know about that one. Then he goes back there, like, is he a mad ball player or whatever? But he makes it work.
Well, when he got moved to fullback, I was like, you've got to be kidding me. Seb Chris is our fullback. Like, I like him as a centre, but not as a fullback. He did a little bit of shifting. I think he spent a little bit of time there on the weekend. I was like, sweet, Seb's at fullback. I'm like, we'll be right.
Yeah, absolutely. You know what's funny is like a Rapana, who is like almost a club legend, at least a cult hero. Very similar vein. Like you go, Rapana at fullback. Like I don't know about that. And then you watch the game and you're like, he was pretty bloody good. Yeah. Like it was very unorthodox, and some things worked, some things didn't. But I tell you what, every time he had the ball, the defence had a headache. They're sitting there going, how do you kind of work this bloke out?
We're missing Jordan Rapana.
Oh, massively.
I just love how comfortable the Raiders are with being unorthodox.
Yeah.
Let's go, sweet. We'll play a little bit rogue, but we're going to be tough as fucking nails. You're going to have to beat us.
Yeah. I thought Kotrick's had some really strong carries initially. I know he had, I think, one error. Was it one error? No, he actually had no errors. Maybe it was an offload that he did. But anyway, I thought Kotrick, for a guy that a few years ago was the winger, kind of fell off a little bit when he went to the Bulldogs, came back. I thought he was all right at times.
I thought he was excellent. I thought even defensively, him and Timoko on the edge, they jammed and shut down a lot of situations where they were just swinging to, I think it was Brooksy's edge, and they'd hit Tommy Turbo out the back. They just picked their times to jam every time. They shut it down just about every time. So I thought Nicky Kotrick had one of his best games in a while.
He was a real handful as well, especially towards the end of the game. Very hard to tackle.
Mate.
Got his arms loose a few times and got the ball away, but I thought he looked really good.
Yeah, I remember the year when he had more tackle breaks, I'm pretty sure, than Teddy.
He was a kangaroo winger.
Yeah.
It was unbelievable.
Yeah. And he's still, I think, 24. He's really young. When he made his Origin debut, I think it was like 20, 21. He's 25. Oh. So he's still really
He's 25
young.
now.
Yeah. So he's got plenty of footy left in him. Morgan Smithies, 43 tackles, 0 misses. Jesus.
This season, he's made 339 tackles and missed 9 in his first season in the NRL, playing big minutes.
Wow.
And when he's not playing big minutes, they look bang average.
I thought Trey Mooney had quite a bit of impact when he came on. I thought he was really good in contact. I think that you're looking at Trey Mooney and you're seeing him start to kind of build into his man body. I think, the last year or two when he's come into first grade, you could kind of tell there's a big bopper there with heaps of talent, but I don't know whether he's physically ready to kind of go with that talent. I think the more we're seeing of him, lately, like especially on the weekend, like he's winning most of those contact battles, which is what you would have expected when he's coming through.
I'd love to sit down with someone from the Raiders and hear their plan for Trey Mooney. So, I've been looking at him the last few weeks going, fuck, he would be a perfect trade bait for another side.
Mate, if I'm the Doggies, like, mate, what are you doing? What are you doing?
Like, Corey Horsburgh's going to return over the next few weeks. They've got other guys there, like Ata Mariota's going $1 million. Emre Gould looks good. Sami Solo, every time he plays, I love him. I've just been looking at Trey for a few weeks thinking, geez, surely he'd be the perfect guy to try and do like a player swap or whatever it might be.
I hate to say it, but like imagine him at the Panthers, what would happen there? Like I think that they'd have a plan for him because we're not talking about just a young guy that was pretty good coming through the grades and, he's playing some good footy. This is a kind of player that would have been earmarked from probably 13 or 14 years old of like, this kid is one of the best in his age group. So I'm sure they've got a plan for him. I mean, I'd be shocked if they didn't.
I'd love to see the Panthers just pick any of these guys that are outside their starting 13 because there's talent in all of them. Mariota, Mooney, Gula, Sami Solo's been great every time he's played.
Do you think Papali'i retires that maybe? Because Adam Mariota has probably got the jump on him, but if you think Papali'i retires, it brings him straight into that squad, maybe even starting.
This will be his last year, or is he?
Papa's?
Yeah.
Nothing official, I don't think.
Must be getting close.
Well, I put it this way:
He
I
might
think,
be far off, but
the rubber's going to meet the road pretty soon with Tom Mooney.
Yeah.
I think there are enough clubs out there where the Raiders are going to have to make a decision of whether it's this year or next year, because I think his contract is till next year.
Yeah, it's a mutual option. So
Mutual
they'll
options?
sit down to talk about
So
it.
I think the Raiders are going to have to really make a hard and fast decision of like, okay, are we going to be playing this guy in first grade every week, or in 2025? Because I'm assuming Trey Mooney and his manager are sitting there going, okay, I want to be patient. I love the club. It's been great. But I'm assuming by 2025, they're probably going to want to be in that starting 17 each week.
Definitely.
So for rugby league's sake and for the Raiders' sake, I'm a big fan of the Raiders. I hope he stays because I don't think we've even seen close to how much he's going to impact games when he does.
Well, there's a reason the Raiders, despite not giving him a lot of game time because of the depth in our forward pack, there's a reason they've held on to him and they aren't releasing him to go play first grade more regularly elsewhere. Like, they obviously have a high opinion of him.
Yeah, for sure. I think that once he gets his real man strength and kind of, I guess, just knows. Sometimes you watch front rowers, and I think Tarpon is a really good example of that. Like knowing when to take that tough carry where it's like aggressive and heaps of post-contact meters, but then also knowing when to use footwork, knowing when to find your front. Like he's so good at kind of picking his moments. And I think when Mooney gets that real good balance of that hyper-aggression mixed in with I'll tip on here or some footwork there, or instead of running at someone, run in between players, I think he's going to do some big damage. Yeah. Big damage.
When's Jordan Rapida due back? Is he not too far
Wouldn't
away?
be long, yeah. He wasn't out like long term. So.
Be interesting to see. Obviously, Coach Ricky Stewart rested Chevy Stewart on the weekend. He didn't play reserve grade either. They've got a bye this week coming. The week after that, they play the Friday night at Magic Round. Interesting to see what Ricky does there.
It says round 11, which I think is Magic Round for opener.
Yes, it is Magic Round.
Yep.
Okay.
So you think Chevy might get called back in?
Oh, no, I'm just wondering what Ricky will do. I mean, he came out and said that he's rested him this week. So do you give him 2 weeks to prepare to come back into first grade?
Oh, I think he's with Chevy. He's probably. I'd be surprised if he gets called back in for the next few weeks. I know Ricky said he's resting him, and look, if he says that, then that must be the truth. But I think there is a world where he said that to protect him from being, dropped or whatever. But he might be looking at Chevy going, you know what? Great debut. Struggled in the next couple games. Just need probably a little bit longer in New South Wales Cup, and then I'll bring you back up. I think that's my opinion anyway. Like really, really good debut. Probably a little bit early for him in first grade. But he's definitely got what it takes to be a first grader.
Yeah, the only thing that makes me question is that he didn't play him in New South Wales Cup on the weekend.
Yeah, potentially. You could bring him back in. What do you reckon, Timmy? Do you reckon he brings Chevy back in, or?
Honestly, don't know. I don't know what he'll do.
Be interesting. I if I'm a betting man, I think he doesn't. But hey, I've been wrong once before in my life. So
Once? What was that?
Just
Warriors
once.
13 plus?
well, I was without the information that I needed. I didn't know it was going to be fucking hurricane out there. I didn't know that the Warriors weren't going to fucking turn up. I didn't know they weren't going to get off the bus. That was under the assumption Warriors got off the bus. Clearly they didn't.
When's the time you've been wrong the most?
Picking you, mate.
Yes.
Not unfair.
Okay, on to Manly. Great, incredible win from Raiders, and just showing us that we always talk about team cultures and club DNA and jerseys and all that kind of stuff. They have a DNA. They have a club culture to rely on, and those 17 blokes on the weekend fulfilled that incredibly well. On to Manly. Extremely disappointing. It's one of those games where you're going to look back at the end of the year, and if let's say they're like hovering around the top 4, and you're going, why? Like, how did we not win that game? Then you go back to the Eels game that they lost, and you're going, that's 18-0. We were 18-0 up there. I think there's been 3 or 4 games where they've been minimum 16-0 up, and they've lost those games. That is a real problem for Manly. Like, that's not just a one-off situation that happens. That's a genuine issue. That's a genuine concern. And we've been speaking about it quite a while. Their defence needs a mass. I don't know if it needs an overhaul, but it needs a shot in the arm. Something needs to change because their defence is just nowhere near where it needs to be. They should, with the players they've got, they get 16-0 up. You shouldn't be coming even close to them in a game of rugby league. At least if you're not a top 4 side. really disappointing. And I know as a Manly fan, you're going to sit there and go, yeah, well, hang on a sec. We scored 24 points and we were 20-0 up. And so we can score points and we can be in it. But it's like, I'm not talking about Manly as a bottom 8 side anymore. I'm talking about them as a top 8 side. And so if you're okay with them kind of having this really inconsistent year where they're up for 2 or 3 weeks and then down for a couple of weeks, then sweet. But I'm looking at them going, if you make the right tweaks, you're a top 4 side. You're genuinely a top. At the very least, you're challenging for top 4. So really disappointing week for Manly, in my opinion.
Yeah, completely agree. And we sort of spoke about last week. Are they the real deal or not? And there was parts in this game where I thought, okay, maybe they are.
Yeah.
But then you walk away from this one, it's just another example of potentially why they're not. And I'm far from convinced this Manly side, and I know they beat Penrith a couple of weeks ago. I get that. But I'm far from convinced that come September, they're going to be able to beat the top sides.
Well, do you get the feeling they're kind of hanging their hat on that a little bit? Like,
potentially, yeah.
I don't. It's just they look to me like a team that, yeah, they look like that. Okay, we've got a couple of big scalps this year. Roosters, Penrith, we're good. We're good to go here. Whereas, like, they're further. Well, not further us from good to go, but at the moment they're playing like a team that will be fighting for a spot between 6 and 10. But on paper, and when they click, they are a top 4 side, and that should be the expectation each week. The consistency should be there. I know Penrith are they're the end goal for every team. So I'm talking about the Penrith Panthers. But what do we always say about the best teams? Even when they play poorly, they still find a way to win, or they still keep the score low. Forgetting what was on again. Like, for example, with the Dogs on the weekend, they didn't play that well. Like, they really didn't. They looked, in my opinion, nowhere near as concise and, all that stuff. But at the same time, they do look like a side that has a minimum standard that they refuse to drop below. And guess what kept them in that game? It was just ball control and their defence. Really strong defence and ball control. And you look at Manly, and unfortunately, they're going into games basically saying, this is a shootout. This is a shootout. We'll score more points than you want. It's hard to do that over a whole season. What do you reckon, Timmy?
Yeah, naturally, I think Anthony Seibold will be very disappointed with the result, because it's not a game they should have let slip, and they should have been able to close it out, particularly with the experience of Cherry Evans, the kicking game of Cherry Evans, and just the massive lead they had. But I'm probably not as critical in terms of the performance because of the way the Raiders scored their points. They conceded one line break all game. They conceded tries off the Elliott Whitehead intercept. They conceded tries off kicks. I don't like the majority of tries off kick / intercept. So defensively, I don't think it was as bad as it looked. Yes, they let the game slip. They need to work on a few things, but I don't think it was probably as bad as it is being made out.
Yeah, I don't know. I disagree. I think the fact that the Raiders had you camped in your half with the game on the line, like, the Manly should be able to blast through that. Absolutely, just go, yep, we'll take that pressure and just take you down the other end and just keep you there. They've got Daly Cherry Evans, Tommy Trbojevic, Jake Trbojevic. I think it's really disappointing. What do you reckon, Hammy?
Yeah, I think it's very disappointing as well. I can't really work out. They're winning so many games that you don't really expect them to win, but then they're losing all the ones that you would expect them to win. Very difficult team to work out. They had 12 more missed tackles, 35-23 than the Raiders the other day. That wasn't great. They had more errors as well. I think KO Weeks found a little bit of joy going to the air a little bit. They weren't great under the high ball a little bit as well. So I don't know, there's just a couple of things that are like pretty basic things that they're kind of getting wrong a little bit, which would be helping very much. But look, I don't know. That just very disappointing. Raiders gritty though, so credit to them.
Yeah, and look, if this was against a top tier side, you'd go, yeah, okay, these things happen. But unfortunately, this is like no disrespect to Raiders, but they're missing Rapana, Fogarty, Horsburgh, it's a pattern too.
Yep.
So what is it? That was 16-0 up against, 18-0 up against the Eels, 16-0 up against the Warriors, 20-0 up against, hey? Yeah, have a look. Like, it's a genuine concern. As I said, that's from me looking at them as a top 8 side. If you're looking at them like, yeah, they'll be lucky to get in the top 8, then you go, okay, well, this is just this is their style of play, this is the way they play. But even players like Tommy Turbo, I thought he was pretty poor, to be honest. Like it says one error.
Position a couple of times, which is very un-Tommy like.
Un-Tommy-like. It says he only has one error. I could have sworn he had multiple drop balls.
Yeah.
So that's I thought Tommy definitely didn't play anywhere near what we know he can play. Like not even close. I mean, he still had a try and a try assist. It's still Tom Trbojevic. Saab under the high ball, he struggled a bit, didn't he? Had quite a few errors.
3, I think.
Garrick was pretty good in attack, so that's a win.
That try, the early try of Tommy Turbos with Luke Brooks was
beautiful.
just divine. And
So,
the way they obviously went like KOEs who'd come from Manly and they had a clear early game plan to get at him in defence as well. Like he spent most of his time playing at fullback at Manly, whether it was NRL or New South Wales Cup, straight at him, but they couldn't have pulled that off any better.
Well, if you go and you watch the week before that, the Raiders versus the Sharkies, there's a try that Nico Hines scored. And if you watch the way that KOE's defended on that play, Nico Hines is sort of, instead of straightening up, he went at the angle, but he could almost see the number on his back. He just turned his entire body, and you could see the fullback was floating on the outside. I reckon they watched that play and went from there. It was perfect.
Yeah.
So Manly were up 12-0 against the Eels and also up 18-6. They scored first against the Dragons. They're up 16-0 against the Warriors. They scored the first 2 tries against the Titans. Now, they won that game, but the Titans still come back. And then obviously on the weekend. So it's a trend.
Yeah, it's definitely a trend. So that's the negative stuff out of the way. The positive stuff, though, is that attack is slick. Like, it is slick. As you just mentioned, that Luke Brooks try assist. Like, what a benefit to have Brooksy at the club now where not everything is on DCE. Like, that's where, when you're a defence and you're looking up and you go, okay, DC is on this side, Brooks is on this side, and you're going, I don't know where they're going to throw the ball. So it just creates more and more space. So I think that the positives for Sea Eagles is that attack is just like slick as anything. Like it genuinely, the attack for me is some of the best in the competition. I would say right now they're a top 4 attacking side when you just watch them. When they get into their plays, I mean, you could even say their plays-wise, they're a top 2. Like it was as far back as round 1 where they had the double drop-off. I know it got disallowed or whatever, but the double drop-off between Jake Trbojevic and Tom Trbojevic, like that attack is classy, so classy.
Especially once you get Olakawatu back in the side, and I don't know whether he'll come straight back in the starting team or not, but having Ben Trbojevic in the back row,
yeah,
he's back the next week or two.
It'll be interesting to see if he comes straight back in. I'm not convinced he will.
So you reckon Waddell will keep it? I didn't think Waddell had the best game on the weekend. He might play well.
I reckon Burbo will come off the bench.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I thought Waddell on the weekend, couple of errors, like really poor errors.
I thought outside of the weekend, though, he's been pretty good so far this year.
Agreed. Okay, so as I said, very disappointing loss. But the positive thing for the Manly is like there is no question as to what the concern is. Yeah. They fix their defence and they're a premiership threat. I believe that. It's just a matter of can they do that?
One weird thing on the weekend, Ruben Garrick, usually safe as houses off the kicking tee, missed 3, I think.
Yeah.
And a couple of sitters too. Very uncharacteristic.
So hopefully they can pull it together. Now, I think it was a couple of weeks ago where they had a similar-ish situation. I think Manly's gone off the rails a little bit. And then they came out, and who'd they play? And they fucking killed it. Oh, man.
Penrith? Back home?
Maybe it was Penrith. I don't know. But they came out and they killed it. So, it's really early in the year. They got plenty of time to fix the problems. But
Warriors over there, whoever it was, yeah.
Yeah. They got plenty of time to fix the issues. It's just a matter of,
Yeah, they lost to the Dragons and then beat Penrith the next week.
Yeah, so it must have been that week where they came out.
I think we're going to be saying it all year with Manly, though. They're going to have their big wins. They're just a team like they're going to... I feel like because they play so expansively and use the footy, there's going to be weeks where it doesn't go right, and they're going to have their poor losses. And they said, Kempy, they'll probably be in that, probably 5 to 8 range come finals time. You'd hate to get them on a dry track on a nice sunny day come finals, but the wetter it gets, the harder it is to use the ball. I think you'd feel a lot more confident.
Well, it's a good point. Like, if I look at all the teams in the top 8, outside of the obvious answers of who you don't want to play, but you're really, like, Manly's one of those ones where you don't want to play because they can turn up and just put you to the sword. And heading into the game, you're sitting there going, oh, well, they're not the Roosters, they're not the Storm, they're not Panthers. So, like, we should be able to handle these guys. And then they just come out and blow you off the park.
And they can do it quickly.
Really, really quickly. So, yeah, I've got them in my top 8 now. At the start of the year, I didn't have them in my top 8. Definitely in my top 8 now. But I don't have them as a premiership threat right now.
It's going to be an interesting few weeks for them. They take on the Dolphins this week, who are going great guns at Suncorp. They then play the Broncos, which is a home game, but it's Magic Round, so it's at Suncorp. They then play the Melbourne Storm at Brookie. They have a bye. Then they play the Panthers. And then by that point, Turbo and DC are going to go to Origin camp. Olakuatu might go to Origin camp. So if they drop a few of these next 4 or 5 games, then they head into Origin without those boys. It could get interesting.
Well, if I'm Manly, I'm looking at Dolphins and Broncos as very winnable games.
Yep.
You know, Broncos obviously missing Adam Reynolds. Dolphins, Manly are a better side than Dolphins in my opinion, and I think Dolphins are above them on the ladder though.
Yep, Dolphins are 4th. 4v5. What a game.
Yeah, what a game. Dolphins are, Manly I think are a better side. Like if they were to meet in finals, I'd probably back Manly. So I'll be looking at that month of footy and going, okay, can we go 2 from 3? Because as you said, you need to get through that origin period when you lose.
They need to bank wins now.
Yeah.
They've let a few slip that they shouldn't have, including the weekend.
But still, the good thing for Manly is they're further along than we thought they were going to be. And there is definitely potential for them to become a premiership threat, in my opinion.
And the other thing, touch wood, of course. No, don't want to jinx anything. Just Tommy Turbo's fit. He's got through all the games, played every game, hasn't looked to be any concerns, moving freely. So thankful for that.
Yeah, absolutely. So, disappointing night, but at the same time, there's plenty to look forward to in the year. You know, like they've got the side that can do some, make some moves in that top 8. It's just a matter of getting that defence sorted.